It is September 2020. In Santo Domingo, the capital of the Dominican Republic, the air is thick with humidity and the smell of the ocean. In a modest apartment complex, a 51-year-old Canadian man is sleeping. His life is quiet. He lives simply, far away from the cold winters of his homeland. He isn't a drug lord. He isn't an arms dealer. He isn't a human trafficker. He is a man who spends his days on internet forums, answering customer support emails and updating websites. But outside his door, a tactical team is assembling. Heavily armed agents, coordinated by Interpol and the FBI, are preparing to breach. They have been tracking this man for years. They have intercepted his communications, monitored his bank accounts, and built a dossier thick enough to bury him. When they kick down the door, the man wakes up in a daze. He is handcuffed, dragged out into the tropical heat, and thrown into the back of a police van. He is confused. He asks what he has done. The irony of the answer would almost be funny if the consequences weren't so terrifying. His name is Gary Bowser, and he is being arrested for attacking Mario. Gary Bowser was a key member of Team Xecuter, a notorious group of hackers. But the entity hunting him wasn't a government. It was a video game company, Nintendo. To most of the world, Nintendo is the friendly face of gaming. They are the creators of Pikachu, Zelda, and Animal Crossing. They are the company of childhood joy. But in the legal world, Nintendo is known as something else entirely. A ruthless, relentless leviathan that never forgives and never forgets. When Gary Bowser was put on a plane and extradited to the United States to face federal charges, he thought he would get a slap on the wrist, maybe a fine, maybe a few months in jail for copyright infringement. After all, he just helped people play free games. He didn't kill anyone. He was wrong. He was walking into a meat grinder. Nintendo didn't just want to punish him. They wanted to make an example of him. They wanted to destroy him so completely that no one would ever dare to touch their consoles again. Gary Bowser would not just lose his freedom, he would lose his future. He would become the first person in history to be sentenced to a lifetime of indentured servitude to a corporation. To understand why Nintendo hated Gary Bowser so much, we have to look at who he worked for. He wasn't a lone wolf hacker coding in a basement. He was the public face of Team Xecuter. For over a decade, Team Xecuter was the cartel of the console hacking world. While other hackers released their exploits for free, driven by curiosity or a desire to preserve games, Team Xecuter was a business, a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise. They didn't just find security flaws, they weaponized them. They manufactured physical products, mod chips, and dongles that you had to buy. They wrapped their stolen code in slick plastic packaging and sold it for $50 a pop. Their philosophy was simple. If you want to play pirated games, you have to pay us first. Gary Bowser wasn't the technical genius behind the operation. He couldn't code the complex exploits that cracked the Nintendo Switch. The real brains were men like Max Louarn, a French hacker with a long history of cybercrime. Gary was the salesman. He was the administrator. He ran the websites Max Console and https://www.google.com search Q=Team-Xecuter.com. He tested the products, he wrote the news updates, and he interacted with the community. He was the middleman, the mouthpiece. When the Nintendo Switch launched in 2017, it was a massive success. But it had a flaw, a hardware vulnerability in the NVIDIA chip that powered it. Team Xecuter pounced. They released the SX Pro, a small USB dongle that allowed users to bypass Nintendo's security and play pirated games instantly. It was a commercial smash hit. Team Xecuter made tens of millions of dollars. They were arrogant. They operated openly, mocking Nintendo's attempts to stop them. They felt untouchable, hiding behind servers in Panama and bank accounts in tax havens. But they made a fatal mistake. They underestimated the rage of the Japanese giant. They watched Team Xecuter profiting from their hard work. They saw Gary Bowser answering emails, helping customers steal their games, and they decided that enough was enough. They didn't just want to stop the piracy. They wanted heads on spikes. They hired private investigators to track the members of Team Xecuter across the globe. They worked with the U.S. Department of Justice to frame the case not as copyright infringement, but as federal cybercrime and money laundering. Gary Bowser, living his quiet life in the Dominican Republic, had no idea that the Childhood Joy Company was sharpening a guillotine specifically for his neck. He was the easiest target. He was the low-hanging fruit, and he was about to pay the price for the sins of the entire group. The federal courtroom in Seattle, Washington, is a cold, sterile place. But for Gary Bowser, it felt like the inside of a Shark Tank. Facing him wasn't just the United States Attorney, it was the full legal might of Nintendo of America. The prosecution's strategy was brutal. They didn't paint Gary as a simple pirate or a tech enthusiast. They portrayed him as a cyber-criminal mastermind, a key cog in a machine that was destroying the video game industry. They argued that Team Xecuter wasn't just facilitating copyright infringement. They were attacking the integrity of Nintendo's hardware. Gary's defense was weak. He was, after all, guilty. He had taken money. He had managed the websites. He had helped sell the devices. But his lawyers argued for perspective. Gary didn't write the code. He didn't manufacture the chips. He made roughly $320,000 over 7 years, a decent salary, but hardly the fortune of a drug lord. The leaders of the group, Max Luarn and Yuanin Chen, had made millions and were safely out of reach in France and China. Gary was the only one in the cage. But Nintendo didn't care about perspective. They wanted blood. In court documents, Nintendo described the damage caused by Team Xecuter as staggering. They claimed piracy cost them tens of millions of dollars. But more importantly, they argued that hacking ruined the ecosystem they had built. To Nintendo, their closed system is a garden, and hackers are the weeds that must be pulled out by the roots. Facing a potential prison sentence of over 10 years, Gary broke. He signed a plea deal. He pleaded guilty to conspiracy to circumvent technological measures and trafficking in circumvention devices. He agreed to pay a fine of $4.5 million to Nintendo. He thought that by pleading guilty, by showing remorse, by cooperating, the judge would be lenient. He hoped for a sentence of 19 months' time served. He just wanted to go home to Canada. But the judge, Robert Lasnik, had other ideas. He looked at Gary and saw an opportunity to send a message to every hacker in the world. He said, "There are a lot of other people out there who think they are smarter than the laws, and I want them to hear this message loud and clear." The message was delivered with the force of a sledgehammer. On the 10th of February 2022, the gavel came down. Gary Bowser was sentenced to 40 months in federal prison. But the prison time was the easy part. The true punishment was hidden in the fine print of a separate civil lawsuit. In addition to the $4.5 million from the criminal case, Nintendo sued Gary in a civil court. And Gary, broken and without resources, agreed to a settlement of another $10 million. Total debt to Nintendo, $14.5 million. For a 52-year-old man with health issues, no assets, and a criminal record, this number was essentially fiction. He could never pay it. Usually, in cases like this, the debt hangs over the person until they declare bankruptcy or die, but the corporation rarely sees a dime. But Nintendo wasn't interested in usual. They crafted a settlement agreement so draconian, so unusually specific, that legal experts were stunned. The agreement stipulates that for the rest of his life, Gary Bowser must pay Nintendo roughly 25 to 30% of his gross monthly income. It doesn't matter if he works at a grocery store. It doesn't matter if he mows lawns. It doesn't matter if he receives a disability check. Before he pays rent, before he buys food, before he pays for his own medicine, Nintendo takes their cut. They essentially garnished his existence. When Gary was released from prison early in 2023 for good behavior, the reality set in. He found a job in the prison library earning pennies. Nintendo took their share. When he got out, he had paid them exactly $175. He still owes $14,499,825. This is a life sentence without bars. Gary Bowser is now an indentured servant to the creators of Mario. Every hour he works for the rest of his life contributes to the bottom line of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. He will never be able to own a home. He will never be able to retire. He will never be free. Nintendo got what they wanted.
Mounted his head on a pike
They didn't just
outside
stop
the
a
city
hacker.
gates.
They mounted
The
his
message
head on
to
a
the
pike
hacking
outside the city
community
gates.
was terrifying.
The message to the hacking community was terrifyingly clear. Do not touch our consoles. If you do, we won't just put you in jail. We will own you. Today, Gary Bowser lives in a small apartment in Canada. He relies on the
Just to
charity
pay
of
his
friends and
rent,
strangers
buy
on the
insulin
internet
for his
just to pay his rent and buy insulin for his diabetes. Every time a check arrives, he knows a portion belongs to the corporation that crushed him. Meanwhile, the true architects of Team Xecuter, Max Luarn and Yuaning Chen, remain free. Luarn lives comfortably in France, a country that does not extradite its citizens. He likely sips wine, looking at the news, knowing that the salesman took the bullet meant for the general. Gary was the scapegoat, the sacrificial lamb slaughtered on the altar of intellectual property. But the tragedy of Gary Bowser is not just about one man. It is a symptom of a much darker shift in our relationship with technology. For decades, we believed that when we bought a Devicia toaster, a tractor, or a game console, it was ours. We owned it. If we wanted to paint it blue, smash it with a hammer, or solder a new chip onto the motherboard, that was our right. It was the right to repair, the right to tinker, the right to own. But companies like Nintendo, Apple, and John Deere have spent billions of dollars to rewrite that social contract. They want to shift the world from ownership to licenseship. They argue that you don't own the hardware. You are merely licensing the software that makes it run. And because of that, any attempt to modify it is a crime. By crushing Gary Bowser, Nintendo wasn't just protecting their profits. They were enforcing this new reality. They were drawing a line in the silicon sand. The chilling effect was immediate. Across the internet, modding communities vanished overnight. Forums that had existed for 20 years shut down. Developers who were working on harmless projects to run Linux on the Switch or preserve old games deleted their code and went dark. Fear won. We are entering an era where we own nothing. We pay subscription fees for heated seats in our cars. We pay monthly for the music we listen to. And if we try to unlock the devices we paid hundreds of dollars for, we risk becoming the next Gary Bowser. The Nintendo Switch is a brilliant console. It brings joy to millions. But every time you hear that iconic click sound of the Joy-Con sliding into place, remember the sound of the handcuffs clicking around the wrists of a 50-year-old man in the Dominican Republic. Remember that behind the bright colors of the Mushroom Kingdom, there is a legal team ready to destroy a human life to protect a profit margin.
Gary Bowser paid
the price. But the question remains, as we surrender our rights to the corporations bit by bit, how much will we have to pay? The game is over, and the house won everything.